I'm just a Michigan-made girl who survived major trauma after major trauma. I moved all over the country in the United States, north, south, east, and west. But it wasn't until I found myself wanting to end my life right smack in the middle of the country that I realized I could no longer run from the pain of my past. I needed to heal it so I could have the future I deserved and longed for. Now I speak on multiple stages and pages about how to turn your tragedies into your triumphs. Here I have fantastic specialists and guests to help me on that journey, to help people not only around the country, but now around the globe. I'm a speaker, podcaster, coach, and author, but most of all, I am now a victor in my life. And now my mission is to help you find the victor in you.
Welcome to Multiform PTSD. Here's your host, Tracy Lowry.
It's the 4th of July here in the United States, and I am proud to have this veteran speaking on PTSD and depression from a male's point of view. He speaks of the importance of time management, self-care, and healing as he guides us through his story of trauma and self-discovery. Having intense experiences during his military service, coming back from death and finding himself in a deep depression could have left him in a dark place and not loving his life. But now he is coaching others on how to get out of their past and enjoy their lives like he has learned to enjoy his. Please help me welcome Scott Spears. All right, Scott, thank you so much for being here today. How are you?
I'm doing excellent, Tracy. Thank you for having me. Thank you for the opportunity.
Yes. Thank you for being here. I appreciate it so much. And you are coming to us from where?
From Colombia, South America,
Awesome.
Way down south.
Way down south. You're way down there. That's awesome.
Yeah, I decided to stay here.
What made you decide to stay down there?
I was in a good place here in Colombia. I'm in the mountains now in a cabin, isolated. So it was getting back to nature, and it was like, why should I leave? No, I'm gonna stay here. So that's why.
Okay, fair enough. You know, my son just the other day asked, Mom, can we just move to another country? Can we just move away? Can we just get out of here? No, we're not going to do that, but I totally understand. And
yeah.
Tell us a little bit about you, your story, and then, maybe from there we'll do kind of a question answer thing. How does that sound?
That sounds great.
Okay.
Yeah, I have maybe like 3 lifetimes in one, let's say, that brought me to where I am now.
Fair.
I started out in the military at a young age at 17, joined the Army, saw combat on my 18th birthday, well, just after my 18th birthday. That kind of propelled me into the direction I wanted to go in life, which was let's go see everything and do everything you can before it's taken away from you. And that's what I basically took from that experience was being shot at and realizing, man, one of these can hit me at any time and it can be all over, and I haven't even lived yet. So
right.
I made a promise to myself that night before getting back into the zone and doing what we had to do, that I was going to do all that I could do in my life, experience everything that I can. And that is really what is the defining moment, I would say, in my life that has propelled me. Because if I haven't lived up to that, bad things have happened. And that's the huge lesson that I learned in my life. So fast forward, I got out of the military. I got tired of getting shot at after the first couple of years being in and went back to California. Try to do the professional thing, working in Silicon Valley for a few different companies, and started trying to just build my life, basically. And then I moved to Texas, New York. When I was in New York, I got married, moved back to Texas. And then I was living the American dream. I was living to society's expectations. I have the job, got the 9 to 5. I've got the nice big house. I started my family. I have a beautiful daughter who's now 18, big girl now. And yeah, I was just sitting in this house, just sitting there in a moment thinking, okay, wow, okay, I did everything that society expects from me, that everybody else expects from me.
Mm-hmm.
But
Mm-hmm.
is this it? And
Mm-hmm.
and it was like a slap across the face, that question to myself,
Yeah.
where I said, wow, is this can't be it? This can't be everything that I wanted to experience in life. So again, go back to the promise I made to myself in the Army, where you're going to go see and do and experience all that you can. And here I am sitting comfortably in this house and having all the luxuries that I wanted. I mean, I worked hard for it,
Right.
but it wasn't me. So I started looking for jobs outside of the US, because I was just, frankly, I was bored. I was just bored off my butt. I gained a lot of weight, the marriage weight, the family weight,
Yeah.
and I just felt, it wasn't me, I was sloppy. I just, there was no motivation for me. So I took a job in Egypt, and that all of a sudden just kick-started my life over again. I was like, okay, man, I'm going on a mission again. I'm going to Egypt, I'm going to see the
Right.
pyramids. I'm going to see all of this history that I
Yeah.
grew up reading about and admiring. And when I got there, the job was like super challenging, but it was awesome. I loved it. I really enjoyed my time there. And I ended up bringing my family there because I got offered a long-term position there, because I went there originally just for a short term, like 3 months.
Okay.
But then they said, oh no, we want to keep you here. So it was a package I couldn't refuse, basically. So I brought my
Right.
family over. They were super excited. And it was great for about 3 years, but it came at a cost. I ended up getting divorced. That's a whole nother movie to talk about. But it happened.
Fair enough. Fair enough.
Yeah. And that was the first time I actually was kind of like super depressed in my life, because it was something that I couldn't fix. And I pride myself through my whole life that I could fix anything, because that was my job. I mean, I originally started out as an engineer. It's funny because when I went in the military, because I didn't want to go to school. I was like, university, college, no, thank you. I'm done with school. I want to get out of here and see the world,
Right.
And yeah, it was ironic, because once I got in the military, the job that I picked is they put you through like electronic engineering, something that you would take a 4-year degree and do it in 8 months, and in extreme conditions. So it was like what I didn't want, I got anyway.
Just looked a little different.
but it was great. Yeah. So I pride myself on being able to fix, whatever was in front of me. And then I moved into project management, something that I didn't really want to, but I was kind of thrust in that position because I was good at it, I admit. But I had to learn how to be 3 things that I can't stand. And I say this jokingly, because if anybody is one of these that's listening, I'm joking. I had to become a lawyer, a politician, and an actor in order to do a good job at what I was doing. Yeah. So those 3 things, it's funny because, again, life, oh, I can't stand these kind of professions, and here I have to be good at all of those skills, right? So so going back to the divorce, I couldn't cope really well. I went into a bit of a depression because I couldn't fix the marriage, and it was beyond me. Obviously it takes 2 people,
Right.
and it was just beyond repair. So I I came out of that because my parents were like, hey, we just want you to be happy. I mean, my parents were always the model because they've been married forever and been through a lot of, a lot of challenges and everything. And I always looked at them as the model marriage, and
Right.
coming up to having a divorce, I just felt like a failure to them. But when they finally told me, hey, we just want you to be happy. It doesn't matter, that's things happen, and just move on. And that again gave me another kickstart in life. So that and then I went to I jumped back into consulting, and that's when I just started traveling all over the world. I mean, every week I was in a different country, sometimes 3 different countries in 1 week. I could be in London, Johannesburg, and Singapore in 1 week, waking up in the middle of the night, not knowing where the hell I was.
Right.
And I thought that was cool. I mean, it was scary. It's scary at first. And then you wake up and you're like, yeah, this is cool, because how many other people have this feeling, not too many. And so I took pride in that. But for 15 years, I did that, and it caught up to me. And that's about actually 4 years ago today. This is my 4-year anniversary where I actually died. I passed out one night when I hit rebirth day. It's my rebirth day, actually, is what I call it.
I like that better.
Yeah, rebirth.
Okay.
No, I was just doing way too much. And a lot of that had to do with ego and pride, and just me challenging myself. I've always challenged myself to be better, but that wasn't making me better. That was just grinding me down. And yeah, 4 years ago today, at night, I was just having troubles breathing, and I collapsed. And luckily, my ex-girlfriend and her brother were there and were able to revive me. And I came back, and it was super scary after I realized what happened, because I didn't even know. It just felt like I fainted and like I was going to sleep, basically. And that was just the body saying, all right, you've had enough. But not just the body, it was the mind,
Reset.
And that's what I overlooked. Yeah. And it took me 3 years afterwards to realize why that really happened, because immediately after, I said, okay, something's wrong with my body, somewhere in my body. So I went to the hospital, took all kinds of tests, brain, neurology, cardiac, everything. And it turned out to be a combination of a few things. More so with nutrition. I was eating a lot of foods that were causing inflammation, that were healthy foods I didn't know that I was actually allergic to, that I was eating every day. And I pride myself on being healthy all the time. So it was like another big shock to me. Like, how could this happen to me? I take care of myself. I eat right. I exercise. Yeah. And I just jumped into the physical portion and said, I'm going to rebuild myself physically, get back into, competitive shape, because I used to be doing these Spartan races and all of those. And I totally neglected the mental side. And not until right before the pandemic, which I told you, I'm now in the mountains here outside of Bogota, Colombia. I had this tsunami. I'll give you the clean version: undesired circumstances, all in 1 week. I knew my employment contract was going to expire, but I was so used to run, going 100 miles an hour. But I wasn't prepared to just stop, just hit the brakes, emergency brake, and just, all right, what am I going to do? And then my relationship fell apart. It wasn't in a good place anyway, but we broke up, and that was kind of heartbreaking to me. Again, I felt like I could fix anything, Then what else? Oh yeah, I was diagnosed with PTSD because of the near-death experience, I started having anxiety attacks, and
Mm-hmm.
for those 3 years, it was kind of rough once in a while, and it was really embarrassing to me. So it was something I just couldn't control.
Right.
Something would just like tap me on the shoulder and just say, "Hey, remember when you died?" And then, I mean, I could just be doing my normal stuff, and then it would pop in my mind and be like, "Oh yeah," and then I would start reliving that, and all of a
Yeah.
sudden start feeling that same way, like it's going to happen all over again. So yeah, I was diagnosed with PTSD. And then also my daughter's university funds that I had saved up were actually stolen. So not only did I
Oh.
feel like a failure to myself, but also to my daughter, which is really what twisted the knife, you
Mm-hmm.
know?
Mm-hmm.
And what got me here and what got me out of the depression basically is I was here in Colombia. I was in a comfortable place. I was in my apartment. I was like, okay, I can work myself out of this. I was doing my yoga, my meditation, doing my journaling and everything, but I wasn't uncomfortable. And I've never really been able to truly grow unless I make myself uncomfortable. Yeah, I mean, it sounds kind
Mm-hmm.
of sadistic, but it's true.
That's just how
I
it
have to be
works.
uncomfortable. Yeah, and
Yeah.
it wasn't until a month into this I looked in the mirror. I'm getting ready to take a shower, and I'm like, I'm looking skinny, you know. And I weighed myself, and I realized I lost 30 pounds in 1 month,
Mm.
and that's what really punched me in the gut, let's say, where
Mm-hmm.
it was like, dude, that's not you. What's wrong with you? Why are you allowing this? You're
Right.
better than this. Look back in your life and look at all the things that you've gone through, all the things that you've experienced, and you know, you have a lot of people that look to you, even my daughter, you know, as an example.
Right.
And what kind of example are you setting? You need help. And that
Mm-hmm.
was the defining moment where where I had to admit to myself that I needed help. And
Right.
that's tough for anybody, but especially men,
Mm-hmm.
um, because of the society we live in these days, you know, and how we're brought up in the society where you have to be the tough person. You have to not show that you're weak. You got to get
Mm-hmm.
up, brush yourself off, and just
Mm-hmm.
keep going, and forget about it. Don't pay attention to it, right? And
Right.
in reality, there's a little bit of truth in that, but not how we're really taught in society.
Mm-hmm.
It's deeper than that.
Right.
So I knew I had to go somewhere that was going to challenge me, and somewhere that I've never been before. And I had a big hole on my Google Maps, I like to say, places that I haven't been.
Uh-huh.
And that was India. And India had been calling me for a few years. And, you know, maybe if I would have listened, you know, way back when I first started hearing that voice saying, "Hey, you need to go to India,"
Right.
maybe I wouldn't have been there. Maybe I wouldn't have gone through all of the crap that I had just gone through those 3 years.
Right.
But I realized that no, I'm gonna go. I'm gonna go. So I went to fast forward. I did some yoga therapy at a yoga university there in India.
Okay.
And then what really brought me out was this experience with a Vipassana meditation.
Okay.
And for you and your listeners that might not know what Vipassana is, it's a 10-day silent meditation retreat where you
Okay.
totally disconnect from society, from the world, everything. I mean, you get there, you sign in, you do your in processing, and then you give up your phone, you give up your laptop, tablet, whatever communication type device you might have, even your notebook and your watch, which was tough for me because I'm a big watch person. I
Oh,
like to
wow.
know what time it is all the time.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you just kind of submit to the process. And what
Okay.
the process is I mean, is basically you meditate for 7 or 8 hours a day, an hour at a time, and it's really really deep. And if you
Yeah.
follow the instructions that they give you, Because I mean, I'm used to meditating, but I've never meditated like this before, especially that long.
Right.
You know,
Right.
usually I might do 15, 20 minutes max.
Right.
But sitting there for an hour, oh, it's it's an experience in itself. So
Yeah. Takes getting used to, I'm
basically
sure.
the whole process is you sit there and you do a body scan and you just observe how you're feeling as you work your way down and work your way up. Just for the whole hour, you just do that. And that tends to not allow thoughts to come in, right? And distract you, which is the hardest part of meditation, because it always happens.
Absolutely.
But when you can focus on this is what happens. And for the first 4 days, I couldn't sit there. I couldn't sit still because my knee was killing me. I had a really bad knee injury in the Army. And I just was sitting there, I don't know how long, but then it would just be so painful. I'd be like, oh, I got to stretch it out. And then I'll bring it back in and continue. But after the 4th day, I realized, I'm not getting everything. I mean, I'm getting some of what I want out of this experience, but I don't feel like I'm putting myself in all the way, right? I'm not putting myself in that uncomfortable spot to learn. So the 4th day, I had some choice words for myself, and we had a little internal battle. Came all the way to India. And so I set my mind to, all right, you're just going to sit still. You're going to do it. And I did. And what I learned in that very moment is so powerful, and what got me out of the depression and what I'm doing today, because I've learned the value of mind over matter. I mean, we hear this all the time growing up, mind over matter, mind over matter. We see it in the movies, but very few of us actually experience it because we don't put ourselves in that kind of situation. And that sitting that I did the next time, I meditated, I don't know how long, but then the knee starts screaming at me, hey, I'm dying over here. You need to move me. I need attention. Right? But maybe I think maybe I was meditating and I was scanning maybe in my head region. And then I started having this internal battle, this internal argument between my mind and the knee. My mind is saying, no, it's not your turn yet. It's not your turn. When I get to you, we will have our talk, basically. And once that happened, the knee subsided in pain. It decreased the pain. I mean, it was still there. It was still painful, but it wasn't as painful. And that's when I was like, oh, that's interesting. And then when I finally moved down and got to the knee, I said, and I was like, okay, now it's your turn. I give you the attention. Okay, I acknowledge you. I recognize the pain. But now I have to keep moving. I have to keep scanning the rest of my body. And when that happened, I was like, boom, explosion. Here's the light bulb.
Light bulb.
That's the same thing with the depression. That is the same thing with depression. Why am I still depressed? It's because I'm still giving all my attention to everything that made me depressed, rather than just acknowledging it, recognizing what happened and learning from it, and then moving on. I mean, that's the thing. I mean, it's like what I said, society teaches us, brush it off and keep going. But they don't teach you to understand what is it that's making you depressed, right? And why is it making you depressed? And what did you learn from it? And then move on, rather than just pushing it aside. Because when you just push it aside, that it's still there. It's still going to be there. You're still going to carry that weight.
And still demanding to be heard.
Yeah, exactly. And it's funny because I continued the rest of that meditation retreat, and more things popped up in my head besides the things that I was depressed about, things that happened like elementary school, in the Army. I mean, just so many different things that was like, okay, you need to make peace with this. You need to make peace with that. You need to make peace with this. So many things that, hell, I couldn't even really remember, even if I tried. They just popped up.
Yeah.
And I felt so light after that whole experience, that meditation retreat, by recognizing all of these things that happened in my life and just basically taking that energy back. That's how I came out of the depression. And then I came back to Colombia and was sitting on all this knowledge, not just from India, but from my personal and professional experience, and said, you know, the intuition kicked in that I was ignoring for so many years. And it said, you know, hey, it'd be a damn shame if you just sat on all this knowledge and didn't share it with the world, you know. And that's when
Right.
I said, okay, I'm even though I'm still uncomfortable saying I'm a coach, but in reality, I've been coaching all my life. When I look back,
Hmm.
when I'm at the job, and with friends and with family, I've
Yeah.
been giving good advice and direction for all my life, basically. So
Right.
that's now why I'm doing the coaching right now. So that's where I am.
All right. So that gets us to today. What a beautiful story. Truly. And
Thank you.
maybe I'm saying that except for the whole military army thing, I can't relate on that part of it, but so much of your story, and I think I'm not the only one. I'm sure our listeners are going to see parts of themselves in your story. Have you seen the movie Eat, Pray, Love?
Yeah, it's funny. I kind of said that's my eat, pray, love,
Uh-huh. That
because
was
I
my
did
thought.
gain all the weight back. I did gain all the weight back, yeah. Especially in India, because they've got awesome food over there. So
Right. Right. Well, as you were talking,
yeah.
that was kind of the parallel. And when she takes the vow of silence, is that kind of what you were talking about, where she's kind of unplugged
Yeah,
and
it's kind of similar, but actually you don't even interact with anybody at
oh,
at this kind of retreat. The only time you talk is if you have a question for the teacher,
okay.
and that's very, very minimal. So I mean, I don't think I talked the whole time, and I was really comfortable with that, to be
Mm.
honest. The only uncomfortable part for me was the physical pain of sitting
Oh.
in a meditation pose for an hour at a time. And
Mhm.
because over 10 days period, that it gets even more painful. I mean, you feel it, not, you
Right.
start feeling everything that you broke or tweaked, and you and I've had a few of those. So
I'm sure. I'm sure. So, one of the things I want to make sure that we bring attention to is, so when you say you had PTSD, it's not necessarily from combat, which is something I love bringing attention to, because even myself, when I was diagnosed, I looked at my doc, and I'm a nurse, so you would think I got it, but I didn't. I looked at them. I've never been in war. I've never been shot at. I've never been, so how is that even possible? And that was my first introduction to it. You don't have to be in war, in combat, to has any kind of extreme trauma that your body just naturally cannot work through on its own in a reasonable amount of time. So that was a learning experience. And then the whole process of, you had a couple of aha moments. It sounds like you had a couple of time altering experiences. The near death experience, the actual death experience. I can relate to that. And just all of a sudden it just pops up like, hey. And especially, I don't know if you found, then when I had panic attacks after that, sometimes panic attacks, you feel like you're gonna die. And so if you already have had that experience,
totally.
it makes the panic attack have 10 times worse, because you're like, this is what it felt like. I'm dying. I'm going to die again. There's no one here. What if they don't save me like I was saved last time? I mean, I can hear that going on. Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah,
that's quite the,
thousand percent. That's
yeah.
exactly how it felt. I mean, it would just take me right back into
Mhm.
that feeling, not at that, not in the setting, but
Right.
in that feeling that I had, that like, here it goes again. I'm gonna freaking die.
Mhm.
And it's and it's even more embarrassing when it's just you're around some people, like some friends that might not even know your story. And all of a sudden, I flop on the floor, lay down on my back, put my feet up, start wiggling my toes, my fingers, and I'm feeling like my heart's racing 1,000 miles an hour. And I'm telling them, please go get me a cold towel. And of course, they're full of questions.
Right. What's going on?
What's happening? I was like, damn it, just go get me a cold towel. Explain to you afterwards.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
Right.
And it's another crazy thing about it is, for me, it feels like it's a half an hour, 45 minutes. This is all happening. But when I come out of it, they tell me, no, man, it was only a couple minutes, 5 minutes maximum. And to me, it was like a lifetime. It was like a half an hour, 45 minutes. So you even lose track of time. It's crazy. Yeah.
Yes. And I'm glad you brought to attention how it wasn't that you were in the same setting. A lot of times when people think of flashbacks, it's if they're in the same place, they'll get a flashback, or, they'll flashback to the same place. When I love that you talked about it. I don't think it's talked about enough, but there are emotional flashbacks where you feel the same feelings. You feel the same way you did then. You could be in a different, in your case, country. And so you're not even close to the same place, but it's a feeling that just hits you in the face. You can't control it. It just is what it is. And I'm glad you brought attention to that too.
It's almost feeling like you're possessed. I mean, to me, that's how I would explain it. It's like you're going through your normal motions, and then all of a sudden, like I said, something taps you on the shoulder and whispers in your ear, "Hey, remember when you died?" And it's like, oh yeah. And then you start feeling it all over again, and it's just sucks.
It does. It absolutely does. And it's hard to explain. And one of the things I hated, and I know they meant well, but I like to talk about this so other people can be aware. I hated when my mom or, significant other or whatever, what are you anxious about now? Like, there's nothing going on. Like, we're just sitting here chilling. Why are you flipping out? And they would be like, what is it? Why are you anxious?
Oh yeah. And that's the funny thing. That's the funny thing. And that's why I like going on these podcasts, to get that voice, to get that message out there, because so many people don't understand. I mean, it took me 3 years to realize that why I died, it wasn't because of my physical self. It was because of my mental self. I was stagnant. I was not happy. I was stuck in a negative situation, not just one, but many negative situations. And I just continued to just go with it without doing anything. And now when I say, hey, you have to balance not just your physical self, your physical well-being, but your mental well-being. That is the key to you living a healthy life and being productive and being happy. But you throw mental out there, and so many people get afraid of that word. It's like, oh hell, pad the walls, we're putting them in the moving elevator,
Right.
And you have to be strong enough to come up with, hey, and have that self-conviction that mental health is important. And it doesn't mean, mental health does not equal crazy. Mental health does not mean something is wrong with you. I mean, but you just say mental health. I'm not saying negative mental health, but people automatically kind of put a negative spin when they hear mental health, and just put like there's a weakness there or something. No, it's not. We all have it. And that's another reason why I'm doing this today, because I don't want people to burn themselves out like I did, and understand, okay, how to recognize if you're burning yourself out, and how can you combat that, and take care of yourself. And kids are even experiencing this more so these days, unfortunately, because it's not just about the schoolwork, what they're learning in class.
Exactly.
They also need to know social skills
Mm-hmm.
and how to interact with other people. So it's a crazy world we live in right now, but we
Mm-hmm.
have to adapt. That's a whole nother
Mm-hmm.
that I teach in my coaching, how to adapt, because if you can't adapt, you're not going to survive.
Right.
And that's just it. Mental health is the key to having complete well-being in our lives.
Amen. And one of the things I want, thank you so much. One of the things I want to talk about now is you mentioned how it wasn't your physical health that caused you to die or have physical issues. Stress and unrelieved trauma can cause so much physical ailments to our bodies. And I don't think this is brought near enough to the attention, because a lot of times when we have these unresolved traumas that we haven't worked through, we have these physical symptoms and we go to the doctors and we go to the specialists. And I say we because I've been all over with the same thing, no one knowing what's wrong. And then finally they look at you and go, you're just making it up. You're crazy, or you're just faking,
Yeah.
trying to
And
get
here's some
attention.
pills.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And they didn't even have pills to give me because they didn't know what to do with me. So, I mean, it was really frustrating because I was struggling physically and I didn't really know how much mentally I was struggling with at the time. But that wasn't helping because then I started being looked at as a faker or trying to get attention or whatever. And so I wasn't getting any kind of help in which I needed. And it was just making it worse and worse and worse. So when you're talking to people who have unresolved traumas and physical ailments, can you talk about how the two connect and how just a touch on how you help people kind of see it and work through that?
Yeah, to me, it's totally about getting in touch with yourself.
Mm.
It took me damn near 50 years to take 10 days out of my life and just give it to me.
Mm-hmm.
Disconnect from everything, disconnect from the computer, disconnect from friends, family, everything, and just get in touch with myself. And I did that through meditation, but there's so many other ways you can do it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we don't give ourselves time.
Right.
And we only have limited time on this earth. And that's one reason why I start coaching and time management is so people understand the value of time.
Mm-hmm.
Because they might think, okay, I have a schedule, yeah, I have an agenda, I'm good,
Mm-hmm.
but it's not just about time, it's also about energy. And
Mm-hmm.
that's one of the things where I teach about how to avoid burnout is when you get in touch with yourself, you start understanding your energy.
Mm-hmm.
And I say there's 5 things that I mean 20% each of them add up to how you're going to avoid burnout and how
Okay.
you're going to keep your mental well-being. And the first one obviously is time management. You got to know what you're doing. You got to know what
Right.
is your plan. I mean, you don't have to have, I mean, a lot of people are different. A lot of people need to be very structured, need to have this list like at 10 o'clock, I'm going to do this, 11 o'clock, that, and just work their way down.
Mm-hmm.
I'm one of those kind of people because I come from project management and I was so used to juggling so many different things and it's a huge puzzle. So it's like, okay, this time I could do that. And then this time I can do that.
Mm-hmm.
And this,
And military,
so
I'm sure shaped that too.
military too. Yeah.
Yeah.
Military too. But then it goes to the energies and the first one is physical energy, which is, your exercise routine where we get into the physical, well-being, exercise, nutrition, sleep. How are those patterns for you? That's another thing is the consistency in your life. Another energy is emotional energy. Like, how are you feeling? How are you bringing it every day? I mean, are you waking up happy? Are you waking up sad? Are you waking up angry, motivated? You got to recognize that. And you don't recognize these things unless you take that time to get in touch with yourself, and that's what I try to do every day and try to teach people. You got to take, even if it's just 5 minutes, Have a conversation with yourself. Go down the checklist. How am I feeling? Am I getting enough sleep? How, all of these things. My mood, my attitude. And then the other energy, your mental energy. Again, we go to mental, and that is how focused are you? As soon as you have your routine in the morning, you have breakfast, you take your shower, you get ready, you sit down and get ready to work on the computer. Where are you? Are you focused on what you're about to do? Or are you thinking about, oh, I wonder if somebody liked my post on Facebook or something, right? So your mental energy, and so your focus, and how much control do you have over yourself? Are you letting yourself just kind of drift, right? And then the last one is what I call your divine energy, or your spiritual energy. How do you feel in your life? Like, do you feel like you have a purpose? Do you know what your purpose and what you're doing, what you want to do in your life, and your overall confidence in yourself? And that's what really hit me. And it's not really about religion. It's more about that divinity of self, right? Of knowing you. And if you don't know that, then you got to be honest with yourself, and you got to schedule some time for you to get in touch with yourself, and then be honest with yourself. That's kind of the foundation of how I start coaching my clients in that.
Fair. I love it. The breakdown. I thank you for sharing that, and for sharing your story, and for all the work that you do. I follow you, as you know, on social media, and I think you're great. And I love the energy, like even just the little correspondence before today, you just have a great energy and a great soul. And you can tell that you practice what you preach, people.
Thank you.
And then you're welcome. You're welcome. There's times where you communicate with people, and you're just not sure what you're going to get when you actually meet them. And I felt like I already knew you, because you're just so authentic and so real, and you just have a great energy about you. And I'm a people reader. I'm an energy reader. So thank you for your energy, being so vulnerable. Especially, I feel like, being male. You touched on it before, how there's just kind of this society's idea of what a masculine male should look like. And I think we need to redefine that a little bit, and to be able to reach out and say, hey, I need help. This isn't going right. Working on mental health does not mean I'm crazy. It doesn't mean I'm weak. It means that in order to be a good person as a whole and well-rounded, that may just be the part of your person that you need to focus on in order to be a better parent, to be a better significant other, employee, employer, whatever. The more well-rounded we are as a person, as a whole, we make better decisions. We move better. We're more efficient. I mean, it just really puts things on a whole nother level. I like to say, most of us understand, we have that moment where things just click, and you're like, yes, like you feel so good about a project you've done, or whatever it is. You just feel like you're whole, and you're just kind of divinely moving, and it just all flows and ebbs and flows. To learn to find that, I don't want to say 100% of the time, because I don't think that's possible, but at least a high percent of the time is huge. And if we don't do those 4 things that you talked about, things are just going to be out of balance, and you're just not going to be quite working on all 4 cylinders. So thank you for bringing that up.
No, thank you. I mean, and again, it's all about practice. I always like to use the example of people want to get fit. They go to the gym and they work out at least 3-4 times a week, and you're not going to get those guns unless, you're going consistently and putting the work in. Same thing with the mental side, the same thing. You got to make time for you. Hey, you don't have to be a jerk about it. You tell your friends, family, hey, look, I'm going to be unavailable. All right, I'm going on an island, an imaginary island, right? For maybe a day. So I'm going to be okay. I'll talk to you guys when I'm done. And I had to do that last year when I moved back to Colombia after India. I did another 10-day meditation on my own. And I told everybody, I'm like, hey, just don't worry. I'm doing some self-work.
Yeah.
And I did. And it's like maintaining your car, taking your car to go get your oil changed. We put more attention to our cars and our homes more than ourselves.
Yes.
Which is the
Crazy.
big problem, right? So forget the material crap and start focusing on yourself. That's what I would recommend to everybody.
Awesome. Thank you. And maybe you just spoke to that, but I ask everyone this question on season 2. So I got to ask you, you kind of touched on it. What about that person maybe that is in that dark hole or feeling like their life is spiraling out of control? Maybe they have PTSD. Maybe they're having physical ailments that no one knows the answers to. And they just don't know what to do next, how to get out of that place, and maybe not even sure they want to try and get out of that. What would you say to that listener?
There's a reason why you're still here. Number one. And there's a reason I always like to use the terminology where if you're in a depression, like I was deep, and I had to make that choice. Either I'm going to splat or I'm going to bounce. And everybody has the same capability to bounce. You still have air in your lungs, so you still have air in the ball, so that ball can bounce. And whatever help you need, it's out there. It's out there. But you have to be honest with yourself. And again, there's a reason why you're still here. Yeah. If you weren't meant to be here right now, you wouldn't be going through that depression. You wouldn't be going through what you're going through right now. There's a reason for it. You're not going to understand it right away. It's not for you to understand. Like I said, it took me 3 years to understand why I died.
Right.
But it wasn't it.
Beautifully said. I love that answer. I love doing the whole same answer, same question to everyone, because there's a lot of similarities in a lot of what people say, but there's also a lot of different angles that people come with. So thank you for that. That was absolutely beautifully said. I couldn't have said it better myself. And
thank you.
Good luck with everything you're doing and moving forward. I'm going to continually follow you as well. This friendship does not end now. Because I like to let people know that no matter where we are, we can always level up. And that's what we need to be focused on. So even if we're at the rock bottom, don't worry about going to the mountaintop in one step, because it's not going to happen. You set yourself up for failure. It's a movement. So you are welcome to come back anytime and let us know what you're up to and how you're doing.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Tracy. And I know this is going to be released later, but I am putting together a quarterly newsletter. So if anybody's interested, they can email me whenever they hear this, and I'll send it out. The first one's going to be on time management. A lot of different tips on time management that might help you. So if anybody's interested, when they hear this, they can email me and I'll shoot them a copy.
Awesome. And what is your email address? How can they reach you? Yeah,
it's scott@scottjspears.com. And most of my stuff is on Instagram at time_life_self. That's where I'm putting all the tips that you get, that you see every day out there. And I've got them spread out on different quarters, because I put kind of a little self-growth roadmap for 2021 for people to just take tips at their leisure whenever they scroll through. So Q1 is all time management. Q2 is going to be mindfulness. Q3 is going to be transformation, self-transformation. And we're going to end the year with energy. We're going to end it proper.
Woo! Well, if that's not a reason to follow you, I don't know what is. I'm going to be paying more attention now. Truly, you are a beautiful soul.
Thank you so much, Tracy. Thank you for the opportunity, and thank you for the work that you're doing with this podcast, getting these important messages out there.
I think it's important. I think we need to start talking. I think that'll help get rid of some of the stigma. If we just start talking about our stories and how we overcame, and we really need to be trying to helping each other out and get rid of the whole divisive energy mentality and all of that. So if I can play any small part in that, that's what I want to do.
Well, you're doing it. You're doing it.
Well,
Awesome job. Thank you, Tracy.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And thank you for being a guest on the show. You've been awesome.
Thank you so much.
Hey, it's me again. Just wanted to make sure you're following me, Tracy Lowry, on all social media, including Facebook and Instagram and YouTube, as well as following and subscribing and sharing this podcast, Multiform PTSD, on all of your favorite podcast platforms, as well as a video podcast on YouTube. So thanks for being here.